Bobby Marks, Vertical, front office insider, former member of the New Jersey Nets front office. He's going to join us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. He was a part of those Nets teams that went to the finals back there with Jason Kidd. 20 years NBA experience. He joins us now to give us a little perspective on this wild offseason, Bobby, that apparently is about to happen, right? I mean, this thing looks like they said the playoffs weren't all that exciting. Here you go. Have these 48 hours for you.
Well, it's the best time of the year. I mean, for people who work in the front office, and especially for the casual fan. We saw it start this weekend with that Philadelphia-Boston trade, and yesterday 2 trades right off the bat. Paul George in the news, the situation in Cleveland, and we haven't even hit the draft yet. We still have the draft tomorrow night, and about 10 days later, we get July 1 is free agency. So this is a great time of year. It really is. It's just
Yeah, I was going to say, you're right. It is a great time of the year, and you're right. It all kicked off with Philly and Boston. But from a front office perspective, who won that deal? If you were the GM picking up the phone, which GM would you have rather been, Danny Ainge or Brian Colangelo?
Well, I mean, I really like what Brian did in Philly. I think it is so hard to get lead guards. I believe that Markelle Fultz, there was separation between 1 and where Boston will pick now at 3. And you get your point guard of the future. And I don't think they gave up much there. I really don't. I think how Brian and their group there were able to protect that, the Laker pick, as well as if it's the Philadelphia or their own, it will never be the number 1 pick that they give up there in exchange. And I like what they did. I think in Boston it's kind of a wait and see approach as far as who they draft and where that pick they acquired goes to.
Bobby Marks from the Verticals with us here. The Sixers were at 3. They move up to 1. They give up, some protections on the pick next year. At this point, if you're Brian Colangelo, what are your expectations with this team now? If you're in that Philly front office, what are they talking about right now? What they want to see from this team this year after, obviously 3 years of no expectations.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I would expect the core group to return here, but we don't really know what this group is because Simmons was injured last year. Embiid played, 31 games, and now you had Markelle Fultz. So it's still I would still say it's a work in progress here, and we don't know what they'll do in free agency. I think they'll target some shooters out there. There's not many out, in that group of, probably besides J.J. Redick and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and they've got a bunch of cap space. So I think it's a work in progress. I think the goal for next season is to play competitive games when we get into March and April and not have your season over by the time the trade deadline comes here, and let it build from there, similar to like Utah in the past, Denver this past year, and I wouldn't worry about making the playoffs. I think it's important to get some experience for these guys.
If you're a GM right now, Bobby, and you hear all the stuff going on with Porzingis, what's your move?
Oh, well, I'm calling and giving my best offer. That's what my move would be. I don't know if you can get him though. I think the price could be significant, and I don't know if it's worth it. But I'm surprised that we've heard his name in the rumor mill yesterday. I know Woj broke that yesterday, and it's amazing the situation in New York. It's amazing. Will it be? Whoever they draft tomorrow night, will that be in 2 years from now? That Phil Jackson, upsets. It's Carmelo, and now it's Porzingis, and I would not do anything with Kristaps Porzingis. And the only way I would do something is if I got a Herschel Walker type trade, and I'm getting about 4 or 5 first round picks there, and I don't think that's going to come around.
Does that? What do you make of how that gets at? Is that from the Porzingis camp to the Knicks? I mean, when you're around a story like this, which you've probably been in the past, where does this come from?
Well, you know what? Once you start making phone calls and trying to gauge the market, and maybe taking some, offers from teams, I think that gets out there. I mean, it can come from a lot of different ways. And I always said that every player in this league is tradable except for probably LeBron and KD and Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis probably to an extent. And so there are teams kind of feeling, kind of each other out as far as, hey, would you would you move this player? When I was in New Jersey and Brooklyn, we would call teams, and even if it was somewhat unrealistic, we say, well, what would it cost us to, if this player, if you wanted to move this player? And usually it was a quick phone call, and maybe there were some ideas that were exchanged there.
How trades go down in the NBA, I guess it happens in all sorts of different ways. But if you're in Indiana's situation right now, what's your advice to them?
Well, I think we all saw the writing on the wall. At least, talking to teams, that the perception was that Paul George was entering the last year of his contract, and if you wanted to go get him, that he was going to be a short-term rental. And where the news came out over the weekend on Sunday with him, not resigning there. Lakers are the preferred destination, but I didn't see, Kevin Pritchard's leverage, losing much leverage there. I had a hard time believing he had a lot of leverage to begin with, and I think it's more from a perception base. I think he probably upset a lot of fans in Indiana. I would expect that situation to get resolved pretty soon here, and I don't know how you can have him come into training camp knowing that he is not going to be part of your organization, and he's made it pretty clear there.
Talking with Bobby Marks from The Vertical, and check out The Vertical podcast. Those guys, top of the game when it comes to the NBA. And what about the Butler situation? This one's really confusing to me. I mean, the stuff with the Sixers for the third pick, and the Sixers kind of say, he doesn't want to go to Cleveland. It just seems that this Butler thing is really fluid.
It's amazing. We talk about Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline. We talk about it at the draft. We talk about the draft again. It's year two, and talking about Jimmy Butler here. His situation is a little bit different than Paul George, just based on, he's got multiple years left on his contract. So I think the asking price for Chicago is certainly high here. I think you've got to, even if he came to Gar Forman, their general manager, and said, I want to stay here long term, I think you've got to protect the best interest of your organization. And if you can kind of get a sweetheart deal, then you pull the trigger and do so.
Dwight Howard gets traded last night to Charlotte. What do you make of that deal? What are those two teams trying to accomplish?
Well, I think Atlanta, you have new management there with Travis Schlenk, who was in Golden State previously. Howard was signed by Wes Wilcox, their old GM. Doesn't fit what Travis is trying to do. You take on that Plumlee contract as well as Bellinelli. I actually like it for Charlotte. I know Dwight's a little bit of a tease at this stage of his career, but you get a starting center who is a double-double guy. You have Steve Clifford there, who was with Dwight in Orlando. You move 10 spots in the draft. Now you have the 31st pick, which basically is a late first round. And it's not the Dwight of Orlando. It's not that all-star, that all-NBA player, but it's still a guy in Atlanta last year that gave you 14 and 10 every night. Has his role diminished? Yes, but you get rid of that Plumlee contract, and I thought that was a little bit of dead weight there.
A couple more with Bobby Marks here. The Lakers, let's read the tea leaves here. They give up on D'Angelo. What's the message with that deal?
That we're going to create cap space and we're going to be a player in free agency in summer of 2018. I think that's what the goal there right now. And it's great to have cap space, and I've been in that spot a lot. In New Jersey and Brooklyn, but who do you go out and spend it on is the other question, and who can you attract? And I thought it was a good trade for Brooklyn. I did. I thought, with Russell, where he is now, he's still in a development project. The second pick overall. You have to take Mozgov back. I think he can start for you, become a serviceable center. But those are the trades that Brooklyn has to do. They've got a lot of cap space. If you can try to get an asset, like we saw when they moved Bogdanovic back in February, and get a draft pick or a young player like Russell, that's the approach you have to go.
So much happening. Last one for you, Bobby. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You're Brian Colangelo after the draft on July 1. You being aggressive? You trying to make some calls and get somebody in here with this core?
I am. I mean, I think what happens with Gerald Henderson's contract, it's guaranteed. I think June 30th is the guarantee date. It's $9 million. I think that will signal where their approach will be in free agency. I would go after J.J. Redick. I would. I think where the Sixers are right now, you get a veteran guy in there who's played in a lot of big games. you've got 40 to 50 million in room. So even if you've got to maybe overspend on Redick a little bit, it doesn't hurt you in a long haul here. But you've got pieces in place now. Of course, it comes down to health, but I think the goal right now would be go out and get some shooters.
All right, Bobby Marks, front office insider at The Vertical, front office experience with the Nets. And check out that Vertical podcast all the time for all the NBA stuff. Those guys do a great job. Bobby, we always appreciate the time.
Sounds good. Have a great day.